It's April 26th, 2014, and we're set up at the East Alverton siding on Norfolk Southern's Detroit to Kansas City main line. Led by a solo GE, we observe the approaching Canadian Pacific Auto Rack number 147. In addition to Norfolk Southern, Canadian Pacific has trackage rights along this line from Detroit to Butler, Indiana, where they then turn onto the Chicago line. Canadian Pacific utilizes their trackage rights on the Wabash as a means of accessing Chicago. For 20 years, starting in 1985, Canadian Pacific ran trains on CSX's former Pierre Marquette line from Detroit to Chicago, which runs through towns like Detroit, Lansing, Grand Rapids, Holland, Benton Harbor, New Buffalo, Michigan, and onward toward Chicago. By 2005, running trains through Michigan became inefficient for Canadian Pacific. In addition to high operating costs, CSX refused to allow Canadian Pacific to use their own train crews on this line, causing CP to slowly phase out operations on CSX and moving them to Norfolk Southern. In early May of 2005, Norfolk Southern crews started to work on a new Y connector on the northwest quadrant of the Diamond at Butler, Indiana. This would allow trains coming out of Detroit to travel either on the Huntington District or on the Chicago line towards Elkhart or Chicago. Work on the new connector was completed by August 8, 2005, and the first Canadian Pacific train to cross the new connector was NS symbol 29T. This new routing allowed CP to remove trains entirely from the CSX Michigan line. This saved CP around 100 miles of traveling and also gave them a double-tracked portion of railroad to run on for most of the trip to Chicago. A few minutes later, and we observe yet another auto-rack train approaching in the distance. Train number 289 is one of many auto-rack trains that can be observed outbound from Detroit on this line. This line is part of the former Wabash Railroad, which was taken over in the 1960s by the Norfolk and Western Railway. It was later absorbed into today's Norfolk Southern in 1982. It's one of the most important routes on Norfolk Southern's system, seeing nearly 20 to 30 trains per day. After 289 cleared the crossing, Triple Crown train number 264 was given permission to proceed toward Detroit. Notice the classic GE exhaust fumes as the train slowly begins to climb the Great East. This train will proceed to Oakwood Yard in Detroit, the home of Norfolk Southern's Triple Crown service along the Wabash. From there, it'll be transferred to Canadian National Railway, which will then haul the road railers into Toronto. Norfolk Southern's Triple Crown service provides a door-to-door service. In other words, allows a customer to receive their products in more than one format. By using road railers, Norfolk Southern appeals to more customers than they would by just shipping in boxcars. However, Triple Crown trains may soon become a thing of the past, with Norfolk Southern pushing toward shipping containers rather than semi-truck trailers. In the next few years, Triple Crown trains may become very rare along this line. After the 264 cleared the Alverton siding, we headed south toward Bryan, Ohio, along Norfolk Southern's Chicago line. At Bryan, we spotted Norfolk Southern stack train number 233, headed for Chicago at top speed. After being informed of a special break-in test run of Nickel Plate Road 765, we headed south toward New Haven, Indiana, where we caught NS Manifest Train 14E. The Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society was originally supposed to depart New Haven at about 8:30 a.m., but due to issues with the spur switch, the train didn't depart until nearly 1 p.m. While waiting for 765's departure, we caught NS Grain Train 51T. After catching 51T, we moved east to Payne, Ohio. There, we caught Norfolk Southern Train 17K, led by two BNSF GEs. After 17K cleared the siding at Payne, we again caught train 14E. Train L75 was also running that day and was led by former Conrail SD40-2 number 3352. The second unit was NSGP 59 number 4633, which was painted in Norfolk Southern's Operation Lifesaver scheme. We chased the train between New Haven and Edgerton, Indiana. After L75 cleared the area, Nickel Plate Road 765 was then permitted to proceed eastward toward Leipsic, Ohio, a distance of about 60 miles. After pacing 765, we caught her at the Indiana and Ohio state line at Edgerton. A kind bypasser saw us setting up for the shot and offered us his truck bed for a better point of view. At Payne, 765 was greeted by hundreds of adoring onlookers. The CF7 behind the 765 was there in case of emergency. For reasons unknown, the locomotive was used to push 765 near Continental, Ohio after a service stop. After 765 crossed the Diamond at Leipsic, CSX train Q241 took its turn over the Diamond, heading south on the Toledo subdivision. Notice the classic B&O signals and the old interlocking tower, which is now but a shell of its former glory. While Q241 was pounding the Diamond, 765 was wide just east of town for the return trip back to Fort Wayne. While being wide, about 100 people gathered trackside to witness the 765's departure. After Q241 cleared the area, 765 was permitted to head west. The next location we caught the train at would be Oakwood, Ohio, where the train would cross over the Auglaize River. We again caught the train at Payne as it continued to move west. Built in 1944 by the Lima Locomotive Works, Nickel Plate Road 765 was designed to haul fast and heavy freight along the railroad's main line. 765 was designated as a Berkshire-type steam locomotive, meaning it has 2 small pilot wheels toward the front, 8 large driving wheels, and 4 trailing wheels under the firebox for support. The Berkshires were considered superpower steam. 765 is over 100 feet long coupler to coupler and just under 16 feet tall. It weighs 364 tons, has a fuel load of 22 tons, and can hold up to 22,000 gallons of water for generating steam. The Lady Burke can also travel up to speeds of 70 miles an hour with a tractive effort of 64,135 pounds. The Berkshires earned Nickel Plate a reputation for high-speed service, which would later become their slogan. 765 was the last Berkshire in service on the Nickel Plate. It was retired in 1958 and was stored for several years until it was placed at 4th and Clinton Streets for public display in Fort Wayne. In 1973, the newly formed Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society moved the locomotive to New Haven, Indiana, and began restoration. 6 years later, and the 765 was fully restored to operating condition. After 30 years of excursion service and 2 major restoration efforts, The 765 has become one of the most recognized and loved steam locomotives in the world. So much so that Norfolk Southern Railway decided to use the 765 for celebrating its 30th anniversary by pulling employee excursion trips all over the northern leg of its system. After the successful test run was completed, 765 was yet again prepared for another exciting summer excursion season on Norfolk Southern Railway. A full version of this excursion will be available on our Berkshire's DVD, soon to be released in fall of 2014. The DVD will include many of 765's Norfolk Southern steam trips from Indiana to Pennsylvania, and will feature behind-the-scenes operations at the Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society. Additional footage will include Pere Marquette 1225's break-in run from December of 2013 and both locomotives' excursions at Train Expo 2014 in Owasso, Michigan. Thanks for watching, and if you liked this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel.